Let me tell you a story about a boy with a dream so wild, even the jungle stopped to listen. Somewhere deep in a quiet green forest, where the birds sing louder than traffic, and the wind moves like it has secrets to share, there lived a boy who believed one thing: if the world doesn't give you a place, you build your own. He wasn't rich, he wasn't strong, he didn't even have the right tools. Just an old rusty shovel, a broken bucket, and a heart that refused to give up. Every morning, he entered the forest with the same smile, like he was about to meet an old friend. Trees would sway as if greeting him, and sometimes a squirrel would sit on a branch watching him like, "Bro, what are you planning today? Another crazy idea?" The boy would laugh and say, "Just wait, you'll see." He had a secret dream, a dream to create something magical, something hidden, something people would never believe was built by a single human. A home, a place of peace, a world under the ground, safe, beautiful, cool, and silent. He imagined a space where water sparkled like glass, a slide twisting like a dragon, and a pool where the sky could visit through reflections. But he kept this dream in his chest, close, warm, protected, because he knew people would laugh. And they did. Some villagers jokingly said, "He can't even fix his slippers, and he wants to build something in the jungle?" The boy simply smiled, because that's the thing about dreamers. They don't argue, they show. One evening, he stood in the middle of the forest, looked around, took a deep breath, and whispered, "This is where my story begins." And the jungle quietly accepted the challenge. The next morning, the forest woke up before the boy did. Birds were already gossiping in the trees, the wind was softly brushing through leaves, and sunlight was peeking like a curious child, as if the whole jungle was waiting to see what he would do today. When the boy finally walked in, the forest fell quiet, the same way a classroom becomes silent when the teacher enters. Except here, he was the student, and nature was the exam. He took a deep breath, long, steady, like someone gathering courage not just for a task, but for a destiny. The boy placed his old shovel on the ground. It wasn't a fancy tool, just a rusty piece of metal with a wooden handle that wobbled more than his confidence. He looked at it and whispered, half joking, half serious, "You and me, buddy, don't break today." Then he cracked his fingers like a hero, preparing for the final battle scene of a movie, set his feet firmly, and struck the earth for the first time. Thunk. The shovel hit the ground and immediately bounced back. The boy nearly fell backward, arms flailing, face making that, "Oh no, I'm going to die" expression. A squirrel on a nearby branch stopped chewing its nut and stared at him like, "Bro, gravity works the same every day. Relax." The boy laughed at himself, brushed the dirt off his hands, and tried again. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Every hit shook his bones, but it also lit a fire inside him. Sweat rolled down his face. Sunlight burned his neck. His hands stung with every grip. Most people would have given up right there. Most people did give up on dreams like this. But not him. Because with every strike, he wasn't just digging soil. He was digging through fear, through doubt, through the voices in his head that whispered, "You can't do this." The ground fought back, but he fought harder. Hours passed. The hole grew deeper. Not much, just enough to be called progress, and also enough for the squirrel to sit at the edge like a judge at a talent show. At one point, the boy looked up exhausted, panting like he had just run from a ghost. He wiped his face, smiled, and said, "If dreams were easy, everyone would have one." Something magical happened then. A light breeze brushed his shoulders, almost like the forest itself smiled and said, "Keep going, I'm watching." That was the moment the boy knew he wasn't alone in this journey. The jungle was with him, his heart was with him, his dream was with him. And the first strike of courage had officially begun his legend. With every passing day, the boy kept digging, shaping, and dreaming. The jungle had seen travelers come and go, hunters cross its paths, children play under its shade. But it had never seen someone work like this. No shortcuts, no machines, no excuses. just raw effort. And slowly, the jungle began to pay attention. The trees leaned ever so slightly, as if trying to peek at what he was making. Birds started sitting closer on branches, whispering like chismosa aunties at a wedding, checking in on the latest gossip. Even monkeys, who usually only cared about stealing food, stopped mid-banana bite, staring like, wait, is this guy building a secret villain lair? The boy didn't care who watched. He was lost in his work. His body moved like it had finally found its purpose. Dig, lift, drop. Dig, lift, drop. Every shovelful of dirt was like a brick of determination. But Mother Nature, like every strict teacher, decided it was time to test him. Just when things started looking easier, the ground changed. It became harder, stubborn, tough, like it was saying, if you really want this, prove it. He pressed his foot on the shovel and pushed. Nothing moved. He tried again. Still nothing. Then he tried again with all his strength. And the shovel slipped, flung mud straight into his face. Plop! The jungle echoed with laughter. Monkeys screeched. Birds chirped louder. Somewhere, even the wind sounded like it was cackling. The boy wiped the mud slowly, looked around at the audience, and yelled, "Go ahead, laugh now. One day, you'll be taking selfies with this place." A butterfly literally flew past him at that moment, like it was nodding. Facts. He smiled again, but this time it wasn't a light smile. It was a warrior smile. One that grows only when you've tasted difficulty, yet still keep going. He changed tactics. He started breaking the ground piece by piece. He used stones to crack other stones. He sharpened sticks to loosen roots. His hands took bruises, but his eyes never lost focus. Sometimes he would stand back, breathing heavily, the sun painting sweat gold on his face, and he would picture his dream. A peaceful underground home, cool like morning breeze, sparkling with water like diamonds, a place where silence hugged you, and a slide that made you feel like flying. Whenever exhaustion whispered, "Stop," his dream shouted louder, just a little more. And that little more was enough to keep him going. Day after day, failure after failure, scratches after bruises, the jungle began to accept him, not as an intruder, but as a builder. The wind softened, the ground loosened, even the birds stopped gossiping and started cheering. He was no longer working in the jungle, he was working with it. And slowly, the boy and the forest became partners, co-creators of a hidden dream. But destiny wasn't done. It had one more twist for it. Something that would change everything. Something that would test not just his body, but his heart. The boy's underground dream had taken shape. Not complete, just a rough skeleton, but the kind of progress that makes your heart feel taller. Walls started rising like loyal soldiers. A small pit began to look like a pool of possibilities, and the earth slowly carved itself into a future. The jungle, once doubtful, now looked proud. But the universe always waits for the moment you start believing everything will be okay, just so it can whisper, "Let's test that belief." One afternoon, clouds gathered, without invitation, thick, dark, heavy, like an army planning a surprise attack. The boy looked up. "Seriously? Rain? Now?" he said, pointing at the sky as if scolding a naughty child. The wind ignored him. The clouds rumbled like angry stomachs. And then, splash! Rain hit the ground like 1,000 tiny arrows. The boy ran toward his construction, trying to cover fresh mud, protect new walls, shield every detail he'd worked for. But nature had no mercy. Water flowed through the dirt, walls softened, edges collapsed, and that hard... By the time the rain stopped, his entire dream looked like it had melted into mud. Walls he shaped with patience were now shapeless blobs. The pit that looked like a pool now felt like a swamp straight out of a horror movie. The boy stood silently, not angry, not crying, just silent. Sometimes pain doesn't shout. It just sits quietly in your chest. He lifted a broken stick from the ground. It looked useless, snapped, weak, ruined, just like how he felt. A monkey sat up, holding half a banana, staring like, "So, are you quitting?" The boy stared back at the monkey, and for a moment, it felt like he was looking at his own reflection. Lazy, doubtful, curious. He let out a small laugh through his tired breathing.